This is the all-new Community Connection. I'm your host, Jade Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. Oh, the joys of parenting, and what's more, grandparenting. Oh, but there can be a great deal of stress that comes along with it. I am joined today by Nancy Cambria, the children and families reporter with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, who has been working on this story for a little while, and we've come together for a forum that should help all of us in the area of parenting and grandparenting under stress. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Jade. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for digging into this a little bit more. Tell me how it all got started.
Well, I'm the Children and Families reporter, so I have a big interest in child welfare. And after Michael Brown was killed and the unrest started in Ferguson and there was a great deal of turmoil in the neighborhood, I started to talk to families and particularly some counselors who were in the area, and they were talking about just the tremendous amount of stress that was going on, particularly among children, and also the fact that a lot of families who lived in the area had previous trauma in their lives. So what was happening was they were reliving some of that trauma in addition to dealing with what was happening in their neighborhood.
Sure.
And they started to really kind of focus on that. It impacted me pretty strongly. And then over the summer, I started to get some training from a journalism group just about the bad health effects of too much stress, particularly on young children, how it really changes their brain development and just some of the behaviors that they end up having because of that. But I think even the sadder thing is that things that are out of their control and the stress they're in under childhood can really come out when they're adults in bad health outcomes. They find that kids who've been exposed to a lot of stress, they call it toxic stress, end up having severe problems with, say, things like obesity and heart disease and high blood pressure. Oh, wow. And the researchers are now really tying it all back to childhood stress. So I thought, wow, I think we really need to look at this, particularly in this one area, because it seemed to have such an impact. But honestly, Jade, I think, the important thing here is to realize so many parents are under stress, regardless of where you live right now. I think parenting is really challenging right now for a lot of reasons.
It is. And it seemed to have been compounded in our region, most certainly with the tension and the turmoil that erupted from the death of Michael Brown.
Absolutely. I think it's palpable. You can feel it fairly everywhere. And there's a lot of frustrations and other emotions as well.
Sure.
But, when I was starting to talk to the families, I realized, that is a stress. But also, families are dealing with so many other burdens right now. Money is tight for so many families. It's hard to pay the utility bills. Some of the families we covered had their power shut off while I was interviewing them over a span of several months. They struggle with safety issues. There's just a lot of violence in the area. They hear gunshots at night. So there's just all these other issues piling on as well.
Sure.
So, dealing with moms and talking to them, they're very heroic. They're trying really, really hard to parent, but it's hard. It's definitely hard.
What did you discover is the way that many of us cope?
Well, these moms have a great deal of resilience, I think. They really kind of take it one step at a time. Maybe some of the worry they try to, put on the back burner for a little bit. That seems to be a strategy. I also noticed that they rely a lot on family. There's a lot of laughter sometimes in the household amid that stress, and that really helps a lot. Some moms really depended on some programs. One mom that I covered, Darlene, had a First Steps program come into her household to work with her twins who had disabilities, developmental disabilities. And she really helped Darlene in that way. So, it was the willingness to let others come in and help sometimes in situations that were difficult for mom.
So in your work, you cover the entire St. Louis region, right?
Yes.
Talk about now, and I bring this up based on some of the discoveries that came out in the Forsake of All report, headed up by Jason Purnell. How did you, and we heard about stress and adverse effects from the perspective of maybe young men. When you're talking to the moms and the families and the parents, how did they differ from area to area, zip code to zip code? What did you hear?
Well, I think the moms have developed their own kind of ways to cope, but they are very household based. A lot of their stress is isolation because of transportation issues. And they are, and I would say this as well as grandparents as well, are keeping households together. And their household is a base not just for their immediate family, but for their extended family.
Right.
They're having a very critical role in helping not just their own children, but extended families as well. So I think that's a really powerful thing to remember. But I find that the most successful moms that I saw dealing with the stress had a network of other moms or other ways to kind of also help. There's this great group through Flourish, which is a group that is trying to tackle the issue of infant mortality in St. Louis. They get together monthly just to talk and kind of figure out resources in their own neighborhoods and how to reach out to others. And that seems to be very successful, very successul.
I love that. Did you discover any more hidden gems like that? Resource groups?
There's a lot of bubbling up in neighborhoods, particularly in Ferguson. You know, we found all sorts of small little groups, maybe having an outside dance class for kids. I wish we could have focused a bit more on that, actually, but there just seems to be a lot of things that people are starting to come together over, particularly for kids, little makeshift after-school programs to take kids in and help with homework. There's a group called ACOP, which really seems to be taking off. It's sort of right in the Ferguson area. They help children with incarcerated parents. My photographer, Lori Scrivan, followed one little girl, Unique, as she visited her dad in prison. And just to see the joy on her face, we have a video of it in our coverage when she saw her dad.
Oh, nice.
It was really stunning to understand that, you know, children, there are so many children who are coping with a parent who has been in jail, and they worry about them so much.
Yeah.
And just to see that was an incredible resource that this organization is providing.
So I'm sure you've run across some powerful stories that you've researched. What about personally along this journey? And as we're keying in on the forum, what's a family or a scenario or triumph or situation that really hit close to home for you?
Well, I'd say it's been a really challenging year for me. So this work was funded through a fellowship, and I was approached to apply for it last spring. And I honestly balked at it at first because I had just dealt with the death of my father last January, a year ago, and my mom is struggling with Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, I cannot take this on. But I'm really glad I did, because I think it was somebody looking out for me, because I learned so many neat techniques about managing stress, particularly, and some great new connections personally and professionally that really have helped me. Everything from learning just special little mantras I say, and just, you know, basic stress management skills that I didn't know. And then I think on top of that, it's been a real honor to cover many of the families that we followed. They were really taking a chance, letting a reporter come in and talk about their lives. They are vulnerable. And I saw just some tremendous moments of courage, which was really inspiring to me. So I think that's helped me a lot.
Wow. So you came out a little better as well.
I believe so. I believe so.
Well, that is the whole idea and goal of our forum, and that is parenting and grandparenting under stress. Brought to you by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and we are also including some helpful speakers that can help us address this stress. You want to talk a little bit more about the forum?
Absolutely. I think the first thing I want to stress is that, you know, that we have speakers, but we're really hopeful that it'll be a conversation.
How about that?
People who come are able to really talk about what they're dealing with right now, so that everybody can understand, hey, you know, this stress is a community issue. You know, we're not in it alone. And I think that's the first big stress buster you can find is community connections. So I'm really hopeful that will happen. But our two speakers are really, really neat. So Connie Fisher, she's with Mental Health America.
Love her.
She's awesome. She is, I call her the stress-busting guru of St. Louis.
I like that.
She's going to give people a lot of those wide-eyed open moments when she talks about just basic ways to look at stress and think about stress and deal with it. You know, my favorite thing that she says, and I hope I'm not giving this one away, but I just love it. You know, she talks about how 85% of our worries never come true. There's some science to that.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, that is a real stress reliever.
Yeah,
that, you know, all that burden we carry, well, the odds are pretty good it's not going to happen. So she's really going to be able to do that, hopefully, for this group who comes. And then our other speaker is John Constantino, and he's out of Washington University, and he is conducting trial programs around St. Louis with parents through Head Start, and they're conducting parenting programs just to talk about this very issue about how can you get the best out of your parenting when you're so stressed out yourself.
Right.
Right. How are you going to enjoy parenting among this stress? And what are some things you can do to really kind of up the level of your parenting and put the stress aside and connect with your children? And so he's going to give some basic information about child development, but mostly more just talking about, hey, here's some things that might work for you. So I'm hoping these are easy tips you can use kind of things for parents and grandparents.
Absolutely. Easy and lasting, things that we can take away with us. We're going to have great groups, resource providers, and plenty of information to share. And I am honored to moderate and be present as a host for the panel.
We are so delighted you're going to be there, Jade.
Well,
so delighted.
Thank you. Well, one, it's an area which I live.
Right.
But I have a heart for children and families as well. So we share that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm a North County girl, too.
Well, see, So the forum will be happening at the new Northside Conference Center at 5939 Goodfellow Boulevard. That's south of where the church location is. And the St. Louis Post-Dispatch invites you to join us. It is a free forum. That is Thursday, February 25th. From 7 to 8:30 p.m. The doors open at 6:30 p.m. You can RSVP through Eventbrite or just follow the link from stltoday.com/stress-free. And of course, you can just give a call at 314-340-8900. And Nancy, let us not forget that you are also a part of the panel. And because of your work and contribution and bringing us to the forefront, we all are the beneficiaries. I want to thank you for that as well.
Oh, thank you, Jade. I'm so excited that this is coming together.
Well, send out the invitation to anyone that you think should be here for our event.
Okay, well, I think everybody needs to take a break from their stress for an evening and come on over to the forum, Parenting and Grandparenting Under Stress, because guaranteed you're going to feel less stressed out when you go because you're going to get some great advice.
And then you'll be able to enjoy parenting more and maybe even take it to another level. Nancy Cambria, the children and families reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Thank you, Nancy. All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to include in the community calendar, you can leave a message on our message box at 314-333-8369, 314-333-8369. And for more information about our show or any of our guests, you can visit us online and listen to the podcasts at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And search Community Connection with Jade Harrell. You all be blessed, do blessed, and take care.